Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemons, and last Friday, Marvel released Eyes of Wakanda, a beautifully designed and insightful limited series that explores a lot of Wakanda's legacy. The story takes us back to 1260 BC, where we encounter the Dogs of War, a secret intelligence force from Wakanda tasked with reclaiming lost pieces of vibranium that were stolen. While the main storyline is linear, focusing on the goal of just retrieving those items that were once taken, the characters in the story deal with a lot of different pressures and guilts and responsibilities. Interestingly, the challenges they face are often resolved by someone or just something from the outside world. Yes, the very same outside world that Wakanda chooses not to assist. The outside world and these characters opening their hearts to it ultimately helps these characters move forward. In this video, we'll discuss all 4 episodes of the limited series, its historical context, its connections to the greater MCU, and how the 616 universe might eventually face destruction at the hands of the Horde. Sorry. But first, make sure to check out nerdride.shop, where you can find the latest and greatest in New Rockstars merch. Right now, we got some great alien merch. I'm wearing it right now. This is sick as hell, you guys. Go to nerdride.shop, get some cool swag on your back, and wear it around so people go, ooh, what's that? And you say nerdride.shop. Thanks to Fabletics for sponsoring this video. More on them in a moment. The last piece to come out from Marvel Animation was Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which of course you know I loved. This title card for Marvel Animation has stayed the same since Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, ending with Star-Lord T'Challa. However, of course, we get a Wakandan-like chanting and drums that brings us in, and that's what's different from, you know, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. That had a different kind of rap song on it. Eyes of Wakanda is canon to the Marvel Universe, as Brad Winterbaum explained a long time ago. Since it's a series that explores Wakanda's history and mythology, it makes sense for it to be considered part of the official timeline. The concept, initially pitched a long time ago by Marvel storyboard artist Todd Harris to Kevin Feige, was intended as a precursor to Black Panther. However, at the time, Marvel wasn't really focusing on animation then. However, the idea eventually came back around, and now we have it with Todd Harris as the director. Though there were a lot of ideas around the series, they end up anchoring it in this kind of anthology, which showcases various highlights from Wakanda's history intertwined with real-life historical events, and some that may or may not be fictional. We open the show with this incredible animated title sequence that I am obsessed with, and bear with me for a minute because I love this opening title sequence. The main title design was created by Studio AKA under Marcus Armitage as the director and all these other wonderful folks that helped. The opening gives us the lion from the first episode and his armored cloak. His spear, which then stabbed into the ground, releases a bit of chalk, and I just love this bit right here. This sequence is just a tease and a subtle look at that delicious animation that's going to be featured throughout the show. As you may already know, Ryan Coogler's production company, Proximity Media, developed the limited series in partnership with Marvel Studios. Similar to Proximity Media's biggest 2025 hit, Sinners, the prologue's woodcut design reflects the rich cultural history of the people impacted in the film. In Eyes of Wakanda, we get this kind of charcoal-style animated sequence. Similar to how Sinners evokes their history through artistic expression, charcoal drawing is one of the oldest forms of artistic expression that has deep roots in ancient traditions, showcased here through Wakanda, which goes way back. What's really cool about Marcus and Studio AKA is that they've done a lot of cool animation with different groups. You can see the similar vibes or techniques used here and here across their diverse portfolio. The title sequence continues pulling scenes and moments from the 4 episodes following the new Dogs of Wars and their missions. We're then time jumping through history and legends and showcasing just how Wakanda was there. They just moved in silence like ghosts. The first episode is titled Into the Lion's Den and takes us to Crete, 1260 BC. Crete is the largest island in Greece and the 5th largest in the Mediterranean Sea. It was also positioned pretty perfectly for pirates with its natural harbors and whatnot. Additionally, Crete holds a significant place in Greek mythology, as it's believed to be the birthplace of Zeus. And I know we've already spoken about the art, but this is just simply gorgeous. The head of the art department was Craig Elliott, who was an actual painter, and they were chasing looks from such artists as Dean Cornwell, an earlier 20th century illustrator, and Ernie Barnes, an iconic African-American illustrator from the 70s, and I just am obsessed with it all. It is so beautiful. Put it in the Louvre. The ships in the distance belong to the Lion, who we'll get into a little bit later, but his team famously has a shield maiden, a Samoan warrior, a Ronin swordsman, and a blade master. This is just an interesting note to add, but given his ambition to rule and unite everyone under his banner, it makes sense that his followers represent diverse backgrounds from different corners of the globe. When we first see the Lion, he emerges from the smoke and the devastation that his followers just plague this small town with. The Lion we won't hear speak until literally like 17 minutes into the episode, but he's voiced by Cress Williams, who played Black Lightning for the CW. Since the illustration is so crucial to Todd Harris, it's worth noting that the color patterns evoke a strong connection to Wakanda, featuring a lot of purple and gold. The lion, as mentioned later, originated from the merchant tribe in Wakanda, whose primary color is purple, and the gold accents just symbolize royalty and wealth, elements that the character seeks as a king outside of Wakanda. The lion soldiers kidnap a bunch of people, and this is all just slavery, which unfortunately was experienced under different rulers throughout Crete's history. After Noni is kidnapped, we're taken back 6 weeks earlier to Wakanda. It's around the beginning of of the Iron Age for Wakanda, and it's around the time we get the emergence of the first Black Panther from the mining tribe, according to the Wakandan Bible. In Marvel's Empower series, the first episode highlights the women of Black Panther and shares some insights into Wakanda's history. They show the Wakandan Bible that Hannah Beachler made. In it, it reveals that around 8000 BCE, Bashenga unifies the battling tribes and becomes the first to use vibranium, and that the Wakandan Palace was built over 750 years ago before the Great Pyramids. This just demonstrates just how advanced they were. While we were building the pyramids, they were already flying their hover cars. Like, get out of here. They watched us go through so much turmoil. Noni is voiced by Winnie Harlow, and we learn that Noni is of the merchant tribe just like the lion. Noni was also a former Dora Milaje. I know they say Dora Milaje. I will try to say Dora Milaje, but ever since Angela Bassett said Dora Milaje, I just naturally say it. So you guys know what I mean when I say it like that. I like that the Dora Milaje just wear basically the same outfit to today's Dora Milaje. It's just more silver instead of gold. She's speaking with Akia, who's voiced by this lady from Jeepers Creepers, and I love her. Akia at the time was the leader of the Dora Milaje, and she details how the lion, aka Nkate, was an exceptional warrior for the Royal Guard, and they nicknamed him the Lion. To just show off how advanced they are even from the beginning, the sands that they show perform like a hologram to explain what's going on. And I like that it's still advanced to us, but to Wakanda, today in present times, they might see this as like primitive because it's sand, but it's still so advanced. And the lion stole dozens of Wakandan weapons before dipping outside Wakanda. We see the metal fan blade, the mask, the hammer, and the gauntlet we'll see again throughout the series. Then Akia says this.
Armed with this kind of technology, in the outside world, he could fashion an arsenal of advanced weaponry.
And does this sound like someone else we know? N'Jobu. N'Jobu was originally a war dog as well, and we'll see themes similar to those of the second Prince of Wakanda throughout the show. However, the theme is really like the need to liberate your people and all people rather than idly just sitting by and watching the world suffer while Wakanda remains untouched. Clearly, N'Jobu did it, right motivation, wrong way of execution, but the lion feels more like he's just power hungry, so he's kind of more of a bad guy than N'Jobu was. Noni, our first war dog, is set on the mission to retrieve the artifacts from the lion. With her impressive prowess, she hides in plain sight, vaulting over the sails deeper into the lion's den. Later, the lion will explain how he was an agent for Wakanda sent to the free world as part of the Hatuzarazi, which is now known as the War Dogs. Technically, he would be the first war dog. However, it's interesting to note that Prince Tafari in episode 4 refers to Noni as the first war dog. And this leads to the semantic discussion since the first war dog is technically the Hatuzarazi, whatever, what have you. But I believe this reflects a deeper issue within Wakanda's history, what they're upholding a little bit even to this day, where long-standing secrets they refuse to just acknowledge. The lion in his history is now just erased. They're erasing his contributions to Wakanda. And I think they're erasing this just so no one gets any big ideas like he did. This show kind of highlights the rich and insightful history of Wakanda while also revealing the shallow and almost oppressive world they had to endure to be in Wakanda. And this is why people ask, are you Team Wakanda or aren't you? Because I'm Team Killmonger. I'm sorry. God forbid that I stand with my brethren. The art is also phenomenal in this scene. If you pay attention to those little details, you can see that there's barnacles on the docks and ships. I like it. The way the lion opens his chest to access his equipment is similar to how we use the Komoyo beads today. Additionally, the Wakandan DNA can help them pass through the barrier or sometimes act as a key, so I'm sure during this time it's just reading his DNA. When finally confronting the lion, we're taken to this room shielded with sails or large fabric, but the designs on the sails are telling a story. The story is detailing the conquering done by the lion and his cult and the people that he enslaved. And then the lion explains his past.
Agents like me were known as the Hatut Zarazi, but now they call us war dogs. Secret network of spies sent out across the world to do the missions that Wakanda does not want known.
And I just need to come back to it because I haven't really spoken much about it, but the War Dogs and Black Panther are pretty current still. N'Jobu and Zuri and Nakia were all previous War Dogs. He's also been confronting her with the fact that they're both very much alike, much like how Killmonger approached Shuri due to their shared anger and resentment. Being a Wakandan warrior or leader often feels like an endless cycle of fighting for something, while being conditioned to believe what they truly are. It's up to each individual Wakandan person to start that change. After beating the lion, he self-sabotages his sea empire fire, blowing it up, killing himself and sinking the artifacts. Noni with this fails to retrieve the vibranium as it sinks to the bottom of the ocean floor. Luckily, later in episode 3, we'll see that the same artifacts are in this room, so someone went back and dug deep into that ocean to retrieve them. Upon returning to Wakanda, Noni now wears an eye patch like Nick Fury, which is kind of funny seeing as, you know, Fury lost his eye to Goose, a cat, and Noni also lost her eye to technically a cat man, another cat in a way. Noni is offered a job back with the Dora Milaje, but she says, nah, get my ass back in that field, and now she's a war dog. The second episode delves into the Trojan War story, focusing on several key characters, including Odysseus, Achilles, Helen, and Memnon. The story of the Trojan War, as narrated in Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, centers on several characters and their actions. The conflict is ignited by Helen's elopement and abduction. Achilles is portrayed as the fierce Greek warrior driven by rage and loyalty. Odysseus, known for his cunning, devises the Trojan horse strategy that ultimately leads to Troy's downfall. Meanwhile, the Trojans are depicted as the courageous defenders of the city. Additionally, Memnon assists the Trojans but is eventually slain by Achilles, and this story reveals that its events unfold in a uniquely, slightly different manner, and we're gonna get into it. This episode doesn't give us a date or year, which is likely because the story of the Trojan War may be fictional or may be real. We don't have a date to put on it. We open the episode with a skeleton clutching a pole with an olive branch flag. A raven sounds on his shoulder, and ravens in Greek mythology have been considered messengers of omens, both good and bad at times, but mostly death. And in this case, it's definitely a bad omen because it's bringing death. The Myrmidons, the legendary soldiers commanded by Achilles, begin to try to breach the gates. They then release their Amazon archers, and like their name, they're the fierce tribe of warrior women in Greek mythology that are sort of dressed like Hercules from Disney. We then see Odysseus, who's trying to take down King Priam. If you know the movie Troy or you know the Trojan story, you know this already. This is the last king of Troy. Achilles is voiced by Adam Gold, and Memnon is voiced by Larry Heron. And this is where we learn that the famed Memnon is actually a Wakandan war dog named Bakai, and his mission is retrieving that missing piece of vibranium that's around Helen's neck. The title of the episode is The Legends and Lies. Later, Memnon states, legends are lies, tales told by those who never did to those who never will. And this perspective frames the episode and highlights the notion that the story we know about the Trojan War differs from what we actually witnessed in this episode. These stories often alter what really happened because we don't really want to face the truths, because the truth is sad and usually ends in betrayal. Similar to how we lie about the lion being the first war dog in a way. We'll see this theme play out through Achilles' death, Memnon's betrayal, and the realization that home is no longer where we thought it was. The home that you once cherished, Memnon, has now perished alongside your betrayal. Summer is when we all realize we need new wardrobes, whether that's because your winter gear makes you sweat more than you want, or you're trying to show off your new beach bod, and Fabletics has what you need. Fabletics makes clothes that are lightweight, breathable, and moisture wicking. They've got sizes from extra small to 4X with bold colors and neutral shades that go with everything. And thanks to Fabletics VIP program, you don't have to break the bank to fill your closet. The VIP program gives you 80% off your first order, plus up to 50% off all day, every day on all products. Plus, every month you can use your member credit to redeem a 2-piece set or any product up to $100. It's very flexible, and you can choose to shop or skip each month between the 1st and the 5th. And that's in addition to access to the VIP only sales, personalized outfit recommendations, free access to the Fabletics Fit app, and monthly drops. Summer weather can be uncomfortable, but your wardrobe shouldn't be. To get some Fabletics clothing of your very own and sign up for their VIP program, just click the link in the description below. After recognizing they've lost this fight, Achilles turns around and stares at the soldiers whose arrows fall short of his feet. Achilles in mythology died after being struck by an arrow in his heel, so the myth isn't lost on us in this shot that mocks his mythological vulnerability. After retreating, now back at base camp, we watch Memnon heal himself by the edge of the water with some vibranium tech, a reminder of what he's really fighting for. And all of the background illustrations here look just like Disney's Hercules, and I have no problem with it. I just gotta acknowledge it. I love it, love it, love it, love it. Later, while talking, Memnon tells Achilles this:
someone has to be here to put the coins on your eyes for your ferryman.
And how crazy is it that he's gonna be doing that exact same thing? Oh God. We all know about the passage through the river Styx, how you toss a coin to your ferryman and then your soul gets to go on and live a little bit, right? Additionally, during this time, the Eternals were kind of popping off. Athena was mistaken for the Greek goddess Athena by humans during this time, and additionally, we saw Gilgamesh celebrate with the soldiers who fought in the Trojan War in Eternals. We get to see Odysseus planning the Trojan horse, which is actually kind of fun and cute. Then we see Memnon use this old artifact to contact Wakanda, and this follows a slightly different Wakandan alphabet, although it just has fewer letters. The next morning, Achilles gives Memnon a necklace his mother gave him, and this pendant has a trident on it. His mother Thetis was considered the sea goddess who appeared as a sea nymph, so I presume the pendant is linked to that. I think the necklace sheds more light on the legends and lies sentiment of this episode, how we might have misconstrued things, or the series of events that just altered to like in another story. They successfully sneak in the Trojan horse, history still repeats itself, the soldiers are now invading, and Memnon leaves, and Achilles fights his big old heart out alone. He then watches his brother retreat from the fight, leaving leaving Achilles to get literally squashed. However, he must complete his mission for Wakanda. Then we see Memnon confront Paris and Helen, which is very funny seeing as their affair is kind of what started the Trojan War. Watching Memnon allow Helen and Paris to escape, Achilles believes Memnon is a spy. However, Memnon can't tell him about Wakanda or the war dogs. The two begin to fight, and with Achilles getting a hold of the artifact and piercing it, leading to a small explosion, then Achilles claims this is magic. Then he instills the fear that every Wakandan has, claiming that he's gonna use that power, that magic that is in this pendant to give to the people. And he goes, hell no. Memnon says that's exactly what we were told not to do. So the two fight, and it's a very unequal fight, because Memnon has, a vibranium gauntlet. Memnon then cuts Achilles, yet he doesn't die because this episode is called Legends and Lies. And the legend is that Achilles is a demigod, and the lie is that he slayed Memnon, when in Wakandan history, it was actually Bakai who killed Achilles. He places the coins on his brother's eyes for the ferryman, and we're back in Wakanda 6 months later. And Bakai is now healing in Wakanda, and Noni is now the director of the war dogs. And this is a very sad ending for this episode and for Bakai, who has spent 10 years away from Wakanda dedicating himself to this cause, and during that time being among different people and building a new home transformed him. Despite this, his motivation has always been to recover these artifacts. Now that he's returned to Wakanda, he kind of feels lost. It's not his home anymore, and he has to go on another mission, and Noni agrees that he can, but only if he understands his true reasons for doing it. And this takes us to episode 3. Episode 3 takes us to China in 1400 AD. On the loud wooden window is the Mystic Knot, or Endless Knot. The Mystic Knot is a combination of the 6 infinity symbols representing endlessness, good fortune, longevity, and a happy life. It's also a symbol of love and harmony and protection, but not for these lovebirds. Mbasha is voiced by Jacques Coleman, and Durrani is voiced by Jonah Zhao. Both are in bed, sleeping lovingly, and then he sneaks out and we see the artifact, which is clearly an artifact that they worship and holds a bit of vibranium. He steals it and clumsily barely makes it out of the village. Also, how insane is it to see like a Wakandan ship just flying around in 1400 AD? Back now in Wakanda, we meet Captain Ebo, voiced by Isaac Robinson Smith, and he notes that the village was guarded by some great power, and we'll learn later it's also protected by the Iron Fist. I love this Iron Fist so much, we're gonna get into it. In this artifact room, we see a couple of double-edged spears, the necklace from the last episode. This item, we'll learn later, shoots like a gauntlet, like a gel-like vibranium substance that, is kind of disgusting and sticky. In the background, you can see the clothes that the women wore on the lion ship, and in the back was the artifact that sank to the ocean floor and the gauntlet that the lion also used. And in another later shot, we'll see a better angle of the Ronin's outfit. Then we meet the High Councilman Rakim, who is voiced by Gary Anthony Williams. Good for Gary Anthony Williams. Honestly, love him. The woman working on Bosch's ship notices something isn't right, and on her tablet there are some things written in Wakandan, and I tried to translate them, and a lot of it is just a lot of numbers and weird letters, but there's other things translated later in the episodes that do actually mean something. The Iron Fist literally snuck into Wakanda, and the Iron Fist outfit is just so sick. I love this depiction. It's honestly kind of terrifying. I love keeping the yellow and green accents as much as possible. This isn't the first female Iron Fist to hit Marvel. As the voice actor mentioned on her Instagram, the mantle of the Iron Fist is about power and legacy, and the specific Iron Fist is a character created for the series, and I really love her. We all recognize that Wakanda is a place where women are viewed as like true warriors, and this recognition can also apply to the Iron Fist. Let's just sit down and shut up and celebrate the innovative ways in which characters are brought to life and continue to support this evolution, because if I hear any slander on this Iron Fist, I love this Iron Fist. We see the different lines, which I presume correlate with the trains that we'll see later in the sectors they're in. The trains in Wakanda, as we see them today, are hyper advanced, basically floating using magnetic levitation and traveling at very high speeds. So it's just interesting to see how far they've come, but also they were already so far ahead of everybody else. When she punches the Wakandans, you can see her hand begin to light up, and the follow through is just immaculate. We then learn that he did get stuck in a blizzard, and Durrani is the one who nursed him back to health, because that's my girl. I love this Iron Fist. It's actually crazy to think that the first outsider might have been the Iron Fist. In the last episode, we begin to see how espionage becomes treacherous for the war dogs, particularly in their feelings and humanity, while still abiding by their long-term assignments, which changes who they really are. Namor kind of talked about espionage and how the people in Wakanda feel about the outsiders, using Lupita's character Nakia as an example. She views the outside world with kind eyes, suggesting that over time, she and other Wakandans have probably learned to embrace their emotions rather than suppress them in favor of their missions. And this is why these people have feelings when they leave, because they're not robots, they're people. Wakanda, get it together! Durrani explains how she defeated the immortal dragon Shao Lao and drew power from his molten heart to become the Iron Fist. As some may know, Shao Lao was the immortal dragon who became the source of power in Kunlun, and this dragon is the source of Iron Fist powers as well, and always plays a huge part in Iron Fist's origins. Durrani removes the vibranium from inside the dragon's head, and she's able to do it with her powers. Shuri had to rely on various tools to control vibranium, such as like the sonic stabilizers, or just integrating it by weaving it into Black Panther's suit. If Shuri in present day still faces challenges managing vibranium, yet Durrani can manipulate it in the past when it's basically like vibranium concentrate, that really highlights just how powerful this person is. We open the final episode in Ethiopia, city of Adwa in 1896. This takes place during the Battle of Adwa. The Ethiopian army defeated an invading Italian Eritrean force led by Oreste Baratieri near the town of Adwa. This conflict marked a significant turning point in Africa's struggle against colonialism, making Ethiopia the only African nation to resist European colonization during the scramble of Africa successfully. This pivotal moment placed Ethiopian forces at the forefront of halting Italian expansion. And Safari is a history buff, and honestly, he kind of explains it better than I do.
You see, the pale ones are from a place called Italy.
My prince.
And these Italians seek to expand their empire into Ethiopia. But they had no idea what was waiting for them.
And around this time in the MCU, technically, you know, Agatha's messing up her coven. We're focused on Prince Tafari and Kuda most of this episode, who are voiced by Zeke Alton and Steve Toussaint. Prince Tafari was also the name of a famous prince, Tafari Makinen, the last emperor of Ethiopia. Kuda tells us the merchant found this artifact during his days as a pirate on the Indian Ocean. Present day, the Indian Ocean in the MCU has Tiamat's big old body coming out of it. Tafari goes for the artifact, and it's the axe from Black Panther. On their way back to Wakanda after securing the artifact, they run into an intruder who we find out fairly quickly is a future queen of Wakanda and the Black Panther. She's voiced by Anika Noni Rose, who is also our Princess Tiana. I love you, Anika. Back in their vehicle though, Kuda explains how the Prince of Wakanda shouldn't be a war dog, so Prince Tafari is a literal descendant of the Wakandan throne. Additionally, here you can see Watu in the sky. Tafari then mocks Kuda's accomplishments, which tells us he's a member of the mining tribe, and around this time, according to the Bible, the mining tribe will get their first Black Panther. He also actually slayed the real pirate Ben Pease. And then the two are interrupted by the intruder. When she shows them the future, something our Black Panther certainly cannot do, we learn that the future of Wakanda and the world is destroyed by the Horde. In 2396, the Horde emerged from the edge of the galaxy, blocking out the sun. And in Marvel Comics, the Horde were like these alien bug race that invaded and just consumed planets. So Earth tried to fight them back, but since Wakanda refused to help, they ultimately lost, and then the Horde turned their eyes to Wakanda, and Wakanda failed as well. All that remained was a few of the Dora Milaje, the General, and the Queen of Wakanda, and the last Black Panther. What's interesting about this is that the throne of Wakanda is passed down through like generations. The Queen, like T'Challa, also served as the Black Panther. So if our current Wakandan leader is M'Baku, the Black Panther could also be a descendant of M'Baku rather than Shuri or T'Challa. However, it's also possible, yeah, like she could be married in. I just think it's an interesting question to pose whether the mantle of the Black Panther and the throne of Wakanda have shifted to a new bloodline in the future. The Queen uses her quantum scanner, a piece of technology left behind, to search for the historical weaknesses that allowed the Horde to take over the world. The goal is not to just like understand the Horde itself, but to identify the root of the problem. And I love this sequence where she travels through every chain of events, things that we've already seen, to figure out the solution. Like a ghost, she watches the fall of the lion, and still in the future, the alphabet has not changed. On her scanner, when she pulls up the artifact, a lot of Wakandan language comes up. The top left translates to acquired, then it tells us the description, lion mask modification, helmet designer class, and the bottom left tells us this was the temporal recon, number 5, and the year was May 2nd, 7596. With the necklace that was also acquired, it's classified as the Trojan Pendant 12th Gen V capacitor, which I assume suggests that it's the 12th generation vibranium capacitor. Capacitors simply store electrical energy in electric fields, so it can be used to smooth the voltage fluctuations and provide bursts of energy in circuits, so it's doing that within the pendant, with the vibranium being that energy. The bottom tells us this is a recon number 34, and the year is March 22nd, 7590. The artifact taken from China is categorized as the tongue of Shao Lao, the metal fan blade, so both the fan blade and the tongue are artifacts taken from this location. This is recon number 209, and the year is March 22nd, 1090. And then lastly, our Benin axe. Benin is a country in West Africa, and interestingly, when Killmonger discusses the artifact in the first Black Panther movie and corrects the woman as to where it's from, the language is still true to the past. That sounded like a lot, but essentially, listen here. Like she says in the first Black Panther, it's a Benin axe. It might have even been made by the Fula tribe, as she suggests, but Killmonger's also right. The axe is still Wakandan. They mark it as a field weapon component, and it was the recon of 005, number 5, and the year was March 22nd, 1369. That's when the queen then explains this.
And it all begins when a forgotten son of Wakanda finds that X. It is his first step in a campaign to usurp the Wakandan throne. It sets off a chain reaction that opens the rightful king's eyes to the outside world.
And this all feels like an episode of What If, but essentially we learn if Killmonger never invaded Wakanda, the universe would have been doomed. Altering the key events in Wakandan history is what saves the day, which feels like a hiccup for the TVA, but maybe they just don't care about it. When asked to prove if she's really from the future, she tells him that the queen is pregnant with a 4th child, and it's a girl. Recognizing the truth of the situation, the two agree to return the axe, but the queen is sent back to her own time, and Kuda and Tafari retrace their steps to the spot where they discovered the axe while the future Dora Milaje battles the Horde. Both groups are in a race against time, which neither of them can really afford to lose. Tafari places the axe back inside the grandfather clock as the queen shouts "Wakanda forever!" trying to keep the Horde at bay, and as the scene fades out, we see Tafari helping Kuda, who is actually not dead. That's good news. Although they are saddened that they didn't bring back home the artifact intentionally. They return back to Wakanda empty-handed but debrief with the council. The tribal council now appears as more of a collective than before. Unlike last time in the last episode, it felt like it was just one man. It was the councilman. We've seen the tribal council in Black Panther before. It consists of elders from various tribes. And that's it for my breakdown of the Eyes of Wakanda. It was very entertaining, very fun to watch some people die in horrible ways. It was also great to see Iron Fist. I am very obsessed with Iron Fist, and I love anytime we get to mention Greek mythology. Wakanda has such a deep, rich history, and truly there's so much still to find out. Comment down below your thoughts, and a special thanks to one of our YouTube members, Bro, who supports us at the executive producer level. Follow me at Lulu_Clemons, subscribe to all the channels in the Rockstars Network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Wakanda forever!